Bryce Houdeshel with Community Investment Services and One Group Retirement. I'd like to touch on a few things. First of all, retirement specifically, and also retirement accounts. What is retirement? Something that we're all working for, that we can hopefully eventually achieve what we want to do after we're done working. And how can we achieve that? Retirement accounts and things of the sort are all very beneficial tools and vehicles that we can use to help accomplish that. Now, we all probably have them in one sort or another, and we may not be fully aware of what they're capable of, and more importantly, what they're capable of doing for us. I'd like to touch on a few things where we can look at the abilities of our retirement accounts, be it through work, through things of our own nature that we can set up on the side, and also things that we can look to do to help better achieve reaching retirement and being comfortable once we get there. Most of us probably have a 401k, 403b. There's also simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, and I know these are just a bunch of acronyms that I'm throwing out here. We may not be familiar, but case in point is retirement accounts are something that we can utilize to help us achieve that goal of retirement. Now, with an employer-sponsored plan, 401ks, 403bs probably being most prevalent, they are set up by your employer. They also may contribute on top of contributions that you're making out of your own paycheck. Now, just for the sake of argument, I'm going to point out two different things that are brought up whenever we're discussing retirement monies. There's traditional and also Roth. For the simplicity of the conversation, let's just assume that I'm talking about traditional whenever I'm referring to retirement monies, but just quick lesson. Traditional funds are money that are pre-tax dollars that are not taxed until you start taking it from your retirement account. Roth being post-tax dollars, that those are funds that you're paying your current tax bracket rate and they go set aside into your retirement account. But again, for the sake of argument, let's just assume I'm talking about traditional funds moving forward. And whenever we're contributing those funds to our retirement account, they will grow tax deferred again until we start taking those monies from the account. Now, what I will always say to any clients or people that I work with is if it's in your budget to do so, always contributing whatever your employer will match is a no-brainer. It's free money that's on the table. It's free money that you're going to be able to reap the benefit of. If you can do it, absolutely do it. Now, on top of retirement accounts that you can contribute to, you could also have what are called individual retirement accounts, IRAs for short. Now, in some situations where an employer-sponsored plan is not set up for you based on where you may be working, whatever the situation is there, you can still set up retirement accounts on your own. Again, that IRA coming into place. These are all very important things that you can start stashing away money on a regular basis to make sure that goal of retirement is achievable and a comfortable place for you to be once you get there. Now, to the same token, once you do get there, we want to look at a few different things. And obviously, having the more money you can have is a great benefit to yourself, that you can do the things that you want to do and help people that you would want to help. So how do you achieve the most money? Well, simplest thing is starting early and continuing to do so. As I touched on, with employer contributions that are going in there along with your own is a very simple way of earning a little bit more money, and continuing to invest, and certainly something that you can assess on your own, and also consult a financial consultant, advisor, what have you, to set up a plan that is most beneficial and, again, something that you would be comfortable with as far as your investment appetite, which most employer-sponsored plans will give you a investment menu, so to speak, that, again, consulting with an advisor to choose the investments that are most aligned with your goals and what you're comfortable with as far as the investment piece are very crucial factors. And again, starting off as early as possible, consistently contributing are very, very simple yet effective ways of making sure that you can reach that goal of retirement. And I like to use the analogy of the snowball rolling down the hill, that if we're starting at the very top of the hill with our little small snowball and consistently putting more snow as it's rolling down the mountain, when we get to the bottom, we're going to have a pretty large snowball. So again, the same holds true with our retirement accounts, consistently contributing to them, consistently stashing away money. And I know myself included, if I don't see it coming into my checking or savings account, it's not there for me to take from it. So having that done on a consistent basis without you being able to see it is out of sight, out of mind, is a very beneficial tool to use as well for most people. Now, I'd also like to touch on retirement accounts you may have with previous employers. Something that may not really be that discussed when you're moving from one job to another. It tends to be, typically and hopefully an exciting time in your career of moving on to bigger and better things. But what happens with that old retirement account? What can I do with it? Can it just stay there? Can I take it with me? Yes, to both those. There's 3 typical things that you can do with those old retirement accounts. One being leaving it with the previous employer. Now, having done that, you are just letting it sit there. You're not contributing to it. Your employer's not contributing to it. And really, whatever investment strategy you had, it will sit there and continue to do so. Now, what I would recommend in most cases is taking it with you. Now, that can be done moving it to your current employer that you just started with, or you can move it to an IRA, as we already briefly touched on. Now, the reason I say take it with you is you have full control over that account by taking it with you. And again, you are able to contribute into the current retirement account you're going to be contributing to on a regular basis and have those 2 accounts combined, or you can simply just set it up with the IRA. Again, consulting a financial advisor is something that's always recommended to make sure that whatever you're looking to do with those old retirement accounts and currents are lined up with your goals and going to help you achieve those. So just a quick piece on anything that you have as far as previous employers, you always have the ability to move them along with you, which is always a very beneficial piece on making sure that you have everything that you've contributed yourself to old retirement accounts, and any money that you've put there is yours, and you have full ability to take it with you. So that is my piece. I hope this is beneficial, and I hope that we are able to both help you achieve your retirement goals during and living through retirement. So thank you. I'd like to pass it on to our mortgage consultant, Rachel Wiernusz. And Rachel?
Thanks, Bryce. I'm Rachel Wiernusz, mortgage loan consultant with Community Bank, and I've been in banking for 20 years, and of the past, about 5.5, specializing in mortgages and lending. So if you're looking to buy a house, whether it's your first or your 5th, there's a lot of things that you want to keep in mind. And one of the first things is to get a pre-qualification, and ideally from a local lender. And once you have that pre-qualification in your hand, you'll want to work with a buyer's agent on what you find most important in finding a house and letting them assist you in finding the perfect home for you. So we'll talk a little bit today about what to look for in a pre-qualification and what we look at as lenders with a pre-qualification. And the strength of having a local lender do your pre-qualification is having a signature at the bottom that a local real estate agent will recognize and be able to partner with. And when we look at doing a pre-qualification request, the 3 main things that we really look at is debt to income, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, your assets, and also credit. So debt to income is literally what it sounds like. Your monthly payments divided by your monthly gross income. So if you take your monthly income before taxes and you multiply that figure by 43%, that would be the maximum that you would want to have set aside for your living expenses. So anything that would be on credit. So vehicle loans or student loans or payments for your mortgage, but not the items that are like utilities and things of that nature. So we'll look at what's on credit. We'll also review your assets. So that'll be, like Bryce mentioned, items in your 401k or retirement account to show what you have to fall back on. We'll also look at your funds available for the closing, so things in your checking and savings account. We'll look for any large deposits recently, so to try to get a feel for your assets towards the purchase. And then we'll also review credit. So we'll be looking for things on credit. Certain parts of the process are driven by score, or score is taken into consideration. But overall, we want to look at the overall history and payment history. So when we look at debt to income and we look at your purchasing power, that works whether you're a first-time home buyer or if you are looking to upgrade your home. So if you're looking at moving on to your next home and you're trying to decide for yourself if you need to move before you sell your current home, we'll look at including that payment in your debt to income ratio. So you have a lot of different options. And again, you want to make sure you're working with somebody that you can kind of bounce ideas back off of, and we're here to give you help and support through the process. And then when it comes to assets and reserves, we'll look and make sure that not only do you have enough for your down payment and closing costs, we want to make sure that you have a cushion to fall back on, that you're not using all of your savings towards the purchase. So from a credit perspective, we want to make sure we look at things like your credit utilization. So when you have a balance on a credit card, ideally you want to try to keep the balance to the credit limit low, because that actually will help potentially increase your score. And also, when you're in the midst of buying a home, you want to try to make sure not to apply for any new credit, whether it's a vehicle loan or credit cards or new furniture or anything like that. You don't want to make any of those sudden movements through the process. A couple of other things I wanted to talk about when it comes to mortgage is a monthly payment versus a biweekly payment. So a biweekly payment, I know many of us are paid biweekly. What a biweekly payment does is it takes a 30-year mortgage and cuts roughly about 5 years off of the loan, which saves a lot in interest. But if you're buying a home with less than 20% down up front, it can also save you on the amount that you'll spend on your PMI or private mortgage insurance. And it's done as a traditional biweekly. So every 14 days, you'll have a half payment come out, which equates to 26 half payments a year, or one full payment to principal, which is what is such a great added savings in the long run when it comes to paying down the loan. And Bryce had mentioned earlier about if you move jobs, what you can do with your retirement account. But also, this question comes up a lot as well if you are changing jobs in either the midst of the mortgage process or had done so recently before buying a home. One of the things that we look at is 2 years of history, not necessarily with the same employer, but we're looking at 2 years of history within the same line of business. Excuse me. In some cases, that previous step could have been in education, where you were going to school. Like, for example, in nursing, you were in school for nursing and then you got a job as a nurse. We would take that job history as well. Or if you moved on and moved up from one position to another, we would count that as well. So those are some good things to keep in mind. Just a quick nutshell. But there's a lot of different mortgage options and processes and things that you can talk to your mortgage lender about, and they can walk you through it. So today's just a little snapshot.